I never in my lifetime thought I would ever end up with cancer. If it was something that was gonna happen to me, I was gonna be 50, 60 years old and had already lived my life, done everything I ever wanted to do. I was 28, diagnosed with stage 3C ovarian cancer. I had 12 pounds of tumors taken out of my body. I'm Jessica Warburton. I'm from San Diego, California. I lost my ovaries, uterus, everything gone. Most girls at 28 are probably thinking about their careers, having kids maybe. Maybe you're still in college, who knows? But you're definitely not thinking, oh my God, I have to beat this. I have to beat cancer now. I was actually misdiagnosed for at least 1.5 years, probably 2 years. I was treated for everything they could think of because I was too young to get cancer. No 28-year-old, no 27-year-old, no 26-year-old can possibly have cancer. It's so rare. Finally, on February 19th, 2010, I went into the ER because I had so much tumor pushing up on my stomach that I could no longer keep food down or water or anything. So I went into the ER for dehydration, and they did an ultrasound and then did a CAT scan. And the doctor comes in and I said, okay, so can you give me just some fluids so I can go home? And he looked at me and I knew just by the look on his face what he was about to say. He looked at me and said, no, you can't go home. You have to have emergency surgery in 2 days because you have so much cancer in your body. You feel this ringing in your ear at such a young age because your life just like flashes. You just sit there and you're like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I haven't had kids. I haven't finished school. I don't even have a career built. Like everything has to deal with this disease now. And it's funny because I kind of laugh about it now because my first thought was, oh my God, my hair's gonna fall out. I wasn't worried about dying or not waking up from the surgery or any of that. It was, holy crap, I'm gonna be bald. I'm gonna be this bald, ugly chick walking around. I didn't know how bad it was. I thought it was no big deal. I was like, this is nothing. I'm gonna get through this just like I get through everything else. I go into surgery, and my doctor apparently called my mother and told her that she needed to be out here. I stopped breathing during the surgery, and I was placed on a ventilator because I had so much tumor in my body. They told my mother that I wasn't gonna wake up. I came out of ICU, I came out of telemetry, and I was in a regular hospital room within 24 hours. And my doctor, my surgeon at the time, also told my mother that he's never seen that happen before. But I remember there was a day where my doctor said, if you don't get out of bed, you're never gonna get out of bed. And I don't know what it was about that, but all I thought was, what am I doing? This is not who I am. I don't just let stuff get the best of me and roll over and take it. So I started getting up out of bed, started walking around the hospital. It sucked, it hurt, it was painful. My sutures opened up. I was in the hospital for 8 weeks. I have a scar that's 14 inches down my body. I call it Tauntaun. If you're a Star Wars fan, you'll get the joke. A month later, I walked in, I had my makeup on, I had my head wrapped up in this Erykah Badu scarf and my fake eyelashes on and my eyebrows drawn on, and he looked at me and he sat there and he crossed his legs. He looked at me with this puzzled look and he was like, how do you explain yourself? And I looked at him, I raised one of my drawn on eyebrows like this, and I said, I don't explain myself. And he just smirked. And he looked down and he was like, you just blew my mind. And that's what he said to me. A doctor who is the most, this particular doctor just doesn't show expression. He's really good about not showing his expression or his emotions, I guess is a better word, emotional. He's not an emotional doctor. And he just had this big grin and he's like, you just blew my mind. And I just looked at him and smiled and I was like, man, I got stuff to do. I just got stuff to do. I think the craziest part about this whole situation was when I was diagnosed, my mother had been diagnosed with a very early stage of breast cancer, maybe 2 months before I was diagnosed. She flew out to San Diego. She stayed with me in the hospital on a cot after having a bilateral mastectomy for 2 months, for the full 8 weeks. She drove me back to Arkansas, which is a 3-day drive from San Diego, and I had a little mini hospital stay in Arizona for 3 nights because I had infection in my body. She ended up having one of her tissue expanders get infected in San Diego, so she actually went through a surgery herself in San Diego, and the same night was back in my room walking around taking care of my sick butt after she had just had this fairly major surgery herself. And she has what's called the BRCA1 or BRCA1 mutation. It generally comes from the father's side. So we knew that because I was so young, we could easily assume that I have the BRCA1 mutation. So I moved to Houston, Texas, went to school, started going to cosmetology school, and I decided that I needed to get the testing done to be sure. Sure enough, I have the BRCA1 mutation, and I was 87% probability of developing breast cancer. So my first thought was when my doctor told me that I had an 87% probability of getting breast cancer and that I could choose to have a mastectomy, my mind is a little bit warped, maybe. People think that. I'm okay with this. But my first thought was, yes, I can have stripper boobs for free. Well, they're not really technically free, but pretty close to free. So I asked my doctor, I said, okay, well, because he said, do you have questions about this? Do you want to think it over? And I was like, yeah, like, can you give me porn star boobs? Can you make them bigger? and he looked at me and he goes, absolutely, we can make them as big as your body will allow. So I said, all right, let's book this. Let's get it done. Let's do it. So I chose to have a mastectomy, a bilateral mastectomy, before cancer even set in, because you know what? If I'm gonna have a bald head, it's because I chose to have a bald head. More than anything else, I think it's incredibly important for not just women, but men too, for everyone to listen to their bodies. I don't care what you have after your name, MD, PhD, 3 PhDs. Nobody knows your body better than you do. Get checked, if you don't know how to do a breast exam, there's a great video that uses really good looking guys on YouTube to show you exactly how to do that. Get your paps, because the reality of it is a pap smear won't pick up ovarian cancer. It'll pick up other things, but not ovarian. It's all in feeling and ultrasounds. And most of all, just stay healthy and stop smoking. Easy on the binge drinking if that's what you like to do. Do your best to be healthy. Get out and be active. Don't sit around on your couch. At the time, 3 years ago, I was one of less than 30% who made it. Now I'm one of less than 25%. So I think it's important to remember that just because you get cancer, you're not going to die. You're not necessarily going to die. Cancer is a word. It's not a sentence.